item I see on for our work session.
Yeah.
Was there any other items that we wanted to discuss to revise or anything? Was there anything else, or everything else that we are going to discuss going to be happening at the meeting?
I think everything else is in the special session for this one.
That's me.
Everything else is in the special session. This was just an opportunity for us, that was brought up at the last city council meeting, to have an opportunity to work through the language and modify if we needed, or to disregard, or have a dialogue or discussion about what this is. But its intention is by no means changes anything. It is simply a document that restates the facts as we understand.
Okay.
So, it also just explains some of the nuances that are in the transportation system plan that might provide opportunity.
Exactly.
That's what this document is intended, and that's what this work session was for, to go through. I was thinking we could go through the recitals. There seem to be about 3 or 4 recitals that, folks from Rivermead were upset about. Maybe we talk about those a little bit and see if there's anything in those that's not true, or both staff and legal advice that we don't need this. But it's done as an attempt to just explain that there's opportunity and options within the transportation system plan to provide a way, technically around the Bankston easement, if possibly around the Bankston easement, and identify exactly what's in the transportation system plan. Fisher Road is just 1 lane east and 1 lane west, separated multi-use pathway, and that we're still going to have to go through, or not us, but the developers, when they develop their property, are still going to have to go through all the permitting through all the state and federal agencies in order to build roads, in order to build trails, in order to build houses. It just basically restates that the city's not in the business of building roads. So we're here. I don't think we guarantee you we build 0 roads. Future, is that going to change? No, I can't tell you what's going to. We can't prove a negative in this situation. We can't prove or say or commit that the city will never build a road, and we can't hinder future councils from doing so. So some of the things that are being requested, we can't really offer up. We come up with a plan, and the plan is there. If the people develop their property, then they have to adhere to the plan.
Right.
If they don't develop their property and the property stays fallow, it stays fallow. So I think those are some of the things that this addresses and talks to. Now it's like putting or pinning King City into a corner that it can't legally get.
So I think kind of the impetus of all of this is what's missing, and that I was hoping to kind of provide that at the last meeting, because I think my assumption from where the public is that all of a sudden this was on the agenda. We kind of talked about it at the work session, but the work session didn't function very well at the work session, and then it was, then the next meeting was the last meeting, and I wasn't there, and it was what it was. I heard lots of feedback. It doesn't sound like it was a great meeting for lots of different reasons, and so I want to take it a little bit back in time. Okay, so I have an email. I think this email is absolutely fundamentally important to explain kind of what happened. So on November 29th at 12:31 p.m. PST, myself and all of the counselors, with copy to Mike Weston, received an email saying Fisher Road Extension, and it was from the chief petitioner, self-identified Randall Olson, chief petitioner. And I'm just going to read this email to provide the context of where and what we took, what steps were taken after that. It says, Mayor Fendes, The discussion at the November 15th council meeting regarding working together to find a solution as an alternative to the recall election was promising. As then directed by you, I met with Mike Weston Monday to discuss this. The conversation was open and informative. I was given an opportunity to express the community's concerns. Any road through the Basin Conservation Easement is unacceptable. I gave him a map which proposed extending Fisher Road through 137th, then north to the vicinity of Myrtle, and then west using Myrtle's existing right-of-way and avoiding the Bankston property. This map and a map modified by Metropolitan Land Group and New Home Company are attached for your convenience. They are attached. Mr. Weston and I discussed several issues regarding the Fisher Road extension. At the end of the meeting, he said that a northern road was not impossible, but would be challenging. This creates an opportunity which I would like to follow up on, but we must move quickly. We have more than enough recall signatures and will wait to file them until the December 12th deadline, giving us the chance to come to an agreement. An agreement in time to stop the recall effort in exchange for a different Fisher Road configuration could possibly result in the LUBA appeal being dropped. While soliciting signatures for the recall petition, we're getting about 9 yeses for every no. This potential new city council will alter the Fisher Road extension to protect the community, to retain the current city council if they were willing to agree to the proposed changes for the Fisher Road extension. Please let me know what you suggest the next steps should be. Sincerely, Randall Olson, Chief Petitioner. I will tell you this. I did not take that email well. I forwarded it immediately to our attorneys, and I have forwarded it to authorities because I think that that is a highly inappropriate email. We do not exchange policy or decisions to not be recalled or to thwart a recall. It is within everyone's right to take the recall action. However, to me personally, I found it coercive and improper, and I forwarded on. A few of the counselors who received that email felt it was an opportunity to open dialogue, to find out what some additional concerns might have been. And so my understanding is that 3 of the counselors met with the Chief Petitioner, Randall Olson, and Mike Meyer. That's my understanding. From that meeting, what I understand took place was that there were 2 main concerns and confusion, and that really what the community was looking for was to better understand what the options actually were to modify some of the plans, right? Because there's this idea that we have this variance that, you know, the road could be moved a little bit here, a little bit there, how much, right? And there was just general confusion. And then my other understanding that came from that meeting was that there was a time frame that a group of individuals within the community felt like there was a palpable shift of when the road would be constructed, and that the concern was that somehow we were talking about a 20 to 50-year plan, and somehow those in the community felt that the road was imminent, it was going to be constructed immediately, and that was the huge fear. Mm-hmm. So we met and we discussed this conflict. How do we, on one hand, right, some of us felt that this email was wildly inappropriate and, frankly, you know, just an abuse of kind of the process, I think is a good way to put it. And then we also saw an opportunity, because we have always been committed to trying to communicate, trying to find some kind of neutral ground, some type of, right, like stop the vilification on all sides, and somehow come to kind of a reasonable path forward. And so it was felt that meeting with others to discuss that were in the best interest of the city. I did not respond to the email. I did not participate. I can't not recall if I knew about the meeting before or after. I personally would not have agreed to meet. I don't fault anyone for agreeing to meet. I think, right, we each perform our duties as we personally see fit, and I don't hold, I don't think it was improper for anyone to take the action they took. I don't think it was improper for me to take the action I took. From all of that, we decided that putting forward a resolution, so we looked at all of the legal opportunities, and I won't discuss what was discussed in executive session because that's improper and it has client, attorney-client confidentiality and so forth. But I think in summation of that meeting, we can simply say, we looked at what we could legally do as a council to bind future councils. What options do we really have as a group for the here and now? What options would we have to put forward later? What is within the legal parameters and so forth? And from that discussion, what was agreed to was that we would try to put together a resolution that we felt addressed the concerns that were put forward to us in that meeting with a few of the councilors, and that hopefully showing that we were continuing to listen, continuing to try to find right solutions, that resolution could, within the legal framework of what our options were, provide a happy medium of what people were wanting on both sides. I think, is that a fair, so I guess first, is that a fair summary of where kind of we were and got to this point? Is that
Right.
Is that accurate as far as you guys? Okay.
Yes.
Trying to address the rumors, trying to deal with that kind of thing, get the
Correct.
information out.
Right. It was surprising to us that there had been this shift in understanding from the long-term planning of the transportation system plan to all, and people were worried that it was going to be immediate. And so I think that probably, at least for me, what I felt was one of the more serious concerns was this shift in understanding, and where did that come from, and how could we address it, because that's just patently wrong. So we put together this resolution. We discussed the resolution at the work session. My understanding, I have not been part of any of the conversations following the resolution, and but I think a general understanding that I have from others who have continued to communicate regarding the resolution is that that it was not well received. It did not achieve the desired outcome from what I think others were looking for us to do. It then kind of didn't exactly articulate what I think we want to say either, and so we're kind of left with this attempt at bridging kind of a gap that clearly through action now is almost moot, because as we know, the signatures were submitted. They've been validated. We have a recall election coming up on the 13th. And so I think now what we're left with is this resolution that I think we had really, I think it was well-intentioned. I think it's well-written. I think it's accurate. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's also kind of like what, I kind of wonder what the point is at this, what is the point at this point in time? And that's kind of where we're at. And so I think, I think our options right now are to work on it, to revise it, to scrap it completely, and so that's what we're kind of here to talk about. And Mike, I don't know with Kate being ill, I think we just leave, I would just say Kate shared some of her opinions with me. However, because she's not here, I don't think it's appropriate for me I wouldn't want to paraphrase what her feelings are. So I think we just leave her opinion out of it, and at any point in time, she can put her own words together if she so chooses, but I don't think it would be appropriate to kind of share that. And so I don't know, Ronnie, has Shauna come online at all? Okay, so she probably got held up with work stuff. So I guess between the four of us. So I just kind of turn it over to you guys, and you can decide what, what are
Right.
your,
So-
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you were saying, there was three of us that met with Randy, or Mr. Olson and Mr. Meyer. Myself, Councilor Choli, and Councilor Tom. Sorry, I don't have a cold. It's been about 2 months, but I have that lingering cough that's
Yeah.
been going on. Through that conversation, yes, the feedback they were getting was everyone felt roads were going to be planned now and put in. That what was in the transportation plan was going to be put in. Thought possibly the only thing we could do was some sort of resolution to kind of reiterate what's always been said all along. Roads aren't going in unless a developer buys a property and puts in a road. They would be the ones paying for it because the city doesn't pay for the roads, or, through the cost of development. Really the only thing, as quickly as we felt we needed to move, or we had to move because we had deadlines, was to put the resolution together. And then obviously at last meeting, the community didn't want it. So
I'm just to push back a little bit, because I want to be very thoughtful and specific about language, because I think it's only fair that, I'm frustrated with certain language that's being used, and others are frustrated with our language, whatever. So this was just what I want to say, is that we heard from individuals who came here at the meeting to give their feedback. So people here gave their feedback and did not like what it was. I'm not willing to say that that's a representative of the entire community or of King City or of the region. So I'm going to push back anytime
the individuals that came to talk.
Thank you. Sorry.
The majority of the individuals that came and
that's what I
spoke to council were not in favor of this. So, but we tried to just go through and reiterate that, yes, roads aren't going to go in unless there's a development. There was probably, some things, if we wanted to keep it, we could pull out that may not need to be there. I don't know. But I think through discussion, we can work through those. But that's why we did that. We thought, in talking with them during that meeting, and I think it came up multiple times, roads aren't going in unless a developer buys it. And scenario kind of, I said, like if a developer or developers or families that own swaths of land along any road, obviously then something's going to have to be built because that's a development trigger. That way, I think everyone would kind of expect a road to go in at that point. So, yeah, I don't know, and then one point there was an HOA meeting and they were told there was going to be a 5-lane road or 4-lane or something. There were so many different things flying around everywhere that rumors and, it just got out of hand.
That's very disappointing. But,
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think? Where are you sitting with this resolution at this point?
I think we just want to make sure we give the president a chance to kind of just the 3 minutes to get at the podium, get a chance to meet with them, and that was why I agreed to meet outside of this environment, right? And like Mark mentioned, we just wanted to make sure that we're pointing to the facts and to what we actually know based on the data that was used by the professionals, the contractors, they analyzed the data and they came up with what was provided.
Right.
And we have tried to find a middle ground where we could, if there are any wiggle rooms that we could use to kind of do something.
Right.
And again, all of it is just listening to the community and making sure that we're taking what they're providing us and meet and then discuss what we can do to find a way of making some resolution or some solution or something to whatever the issues are and the concerns are. Because we live in this city too, right? It's not like people making decisions that is outside of something that doesn't impact us. It does impact us as well. I live on Fisher Road.
Right.
I live on Fisher Road, so why would I make decisions that would impact me, right? So again, I just wanted to meet with the group, the or the residents, let them know we're all in this together. We're all doing this together for the future of the city.
Right.
And we're doing this not looking at any individual being impacted or any group being impacted, but just making sure we listen to everyone. We're all on the same page. We're all moving towards the same direction, and that's the growth of this city. And we just want to make sure we're planning for it and not just caught off guard. Because if we don't plan well, the future generation will hold us responsible for right plans. I think this is a good thing for us to bring the community in and have them listen to what we discuss and we listen to what their concerns are. And again, we've been trying. We're not just going to throw this out and say this is done. We're moving on.
Right.
We still want to make sure that if there are things that are key and they like in this, we can also pull this out and, like Mark said, and put them up on the website or some way and have them to get the real fact of information. Because a lot of information, when it's missed, the gap can be filled with a lot of rumors. And when rumors come in, you have multiple variations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every chaos we just setting. And when you have that, there's going to be a lot of fear. Where fear set in, it's always a hard thing to get control over what it is. So, and so I like it that we're still discussing. We're letting the president know that we're open to discussions. We're open to listening to them. I mean, we're not just doing this and just say it's said and done, lock it up and throw the key away and walk away. No.
Right.
It's still a work in progress.
Sorry?
So, maybe our conversation about how do we get more information out, what avenues can we take to dispel rumors, to get most of what we've been talking about here more forward so people can understand. I think the resolution idea was okay, and we've had a great conversation by doing this. But the information in here is in the plan, but it's in all different spots. So having it all gathered together in one document, one FAQ, however you want to use it, I think that's a good thing. But I don't know that we need to codify it as a resolution anymore. I think we're past that. I think we've got the information. People are thinking about it. My suggestion would be is that we condense this down and kind of eliminate some of the legal language and just have it be a simple FAQ. This is your question, this is our answer. This is the question, this is our answer. And kind of let it go at that and get that posted in a prominent spot on the website and move on.
Yeah. Kind of.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need this document.
Yeah.
I think it's a little too formal. I think we really want to be making sure that we are discussing things in terms that people can understand and they can clearly see what we're going for. And I think this helped answer some questions that people might not have realized they even knew what the question was and got that answers now. So that's kind of where I'm at on this.
From my perspective, we've had lots of meetings. Mike and I think are probably, we might be the only two that went to everyone. I think is probably I think all of us have attended most of them throughout, but I think I can safely say that as far as the community outreach stuff, and for the past, what would you say, 2 years? I don't think that there was a single large-scale public, meeting where someone didn't shout, if you don't vote no on Fisher Road, you'll get recalled, or send me an email saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to recall you. And threats are not a good way to inspire your counselors to do what you want them to do. So I would never not vote a specific way because I was scared to be recalled. That was not ever something that I took into consideration. My longevity serving the community does not hinge on whether I am popular or not popular, whether I'm liked or not liked. I have a duty, as we all do, to this city, and we have to evaluate and make decisions within the framework of the duties that we have sworn an oath to do, and being scared of being reelected or not being reelected or recalled or not being recalled, so improper as a deciding factor as to how you should vote. It is insulting, it's undemocratic. I took great offense to it while it happened for the last 2 years. I take great offense to the fact that someone tried to exchange the way that I would conduct myself or vote in some way or come to some kind of an agreement in exchange for not being recalled, especially in the face of having all of the signatures available. It is a dangled carrot that is so highly improper. I'll leave it at that, because I could go on forever, but I won't. I'll just leave it at that. It's incredibly disappointing. I think having always showing that we're open, that we're listening, right? Even at the last meeting, I know there was a lot of really terrible things said about me personally, right? However, from that meeting, there was also some things that we need to continue to listen to, and right. And so I think what is being missed here is that even in the face of wildly inappropriate, speeches or actions or comments, we still try to find a way to listen, take from it what we can, because like you said, we don't want to just completely turn our ears off and turn our, just be so jaded and, whatever, that we're just going to not listen, we're not going to do anything, right? So, so that being said, personally, I think we're beyond, we're kind of beyond just naturally this resolution. I think this is a good example of why having one meeting a month is difficult, because sometimes when we meet, things are no longer germane or apropos, or, right, like we've kind of missed the boat. So, whoever is in city council coming end of February and March might want to consider going back to a two meeting a month kind of format. But regardless, we kind of are just where we are. And so I kind of agree. I like taking some of the fact sections. I think there's a ton of stuff out there that is still confusing and still being, I think there's deliberately things out there that are used to mislead people. I think there's just generally kind of confusion about some stuff. I think that there's there's always new people that move into the city. There's people that are only just finding out about things right now, even though they've lived here for a long time, right? I mean, it's all those, it's a spectrum across the board. So I guess, so that's kind of where Lori and I stand.
Yeah.
Where do you guys think?
No, I agree with that. I think, and I think, like on the FAQ, you can put links, right? They can click on it and go right to the information, read it for themselves, let them interpret it.
That's a good idea.
That would make sense. I mean, get the
Simple title, a little bit of information, and if they want more information, then they can go to the document. They can start with the document, but this is a condensation of it, easily to reach, easily to find. And if we can accomplish something like that, I think that would be a really good thing for everybody.
And I think this goes back to just demonstrate that, right, the process and the dissemination of information in King City has always been extremely challenging, right? Because half of our city receives information mostly in print format. The other half is digital format, right? We don't have a good newsletter yet. We don't have, we're making huge improvements on our website, but we're not 100% there, right? We don't have, sadly, our beloved Regal Courier is gone, right? There's just, it's hard. And like for all of us that live it, breathe it, are with it constantly, right? Like, I'm still surprised when people tell me they have no idea about the plan, or, there's still people in King City that don't know King City is a city, right? So, I mean,
Or they think HOA is
or they,
city.
right, but that, I think that's hard. So, I mean, I like the idea of kind of a fact section, I guess, Mike, I'd be interested to know staff opinion as far as, at this point, I mean, it's a shame that, we know a lot of work went into the resolution. I think it was well written. I think it's unfortunate, right? It seems like, an example of bureaucratic waste to have gone through a resolution like this and then just scrap it, but it also just feels moot at this point to some degree,
But we're
right?
not really scrapping it.
Yeah, we're not, we're forming it, right. Yeah,
They
I guess that's a better way to
gathered
think of it.
information, they put it together
Together in a really, in a legal, resolution
resolution format, but now we're gonna,
transport it into a little bit more user-friendly.
format, but the
Yeah.
information,
Information is already done, it's just a matter of,
Yeah.
of revising the language, so it's, so thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess, yeah, what's staff's thoughts about it?
Well, our thoughts and also legal counsel were, first off, when we started this, why are we doing it?
Mhm.
We didn't feel it was something that we should be doing or something necessary. And we felt that the ordinance, all the stuff that we're putting in here is in the ordinance itself anyways, and the ordinance has already been approved, adopted, and done, so why are we reopening, the topic, essentially, was our concern and our issues with it. So the other thing was, at the council's request, addressing some of the rumors that we had heard and kind of dispelling some of those, like Fisher wasn't a 5-lane road. Fisher doesn't go all the way to Roy Rogers, it actually stops at about 155th. And, just like little things like that, the intersection, some intersections can move up to 100, some can move up to 200. And along that east-west corridor, the ones that can only move 100 are at 137th, 150th, and then over at Elsner and Roy Rogers, those can only move up to 100 feet, but all the other ones in between can move up to a 200 linear feet in any direction. And that can have a big sway on the alignment of where the road is.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to note that what we have here is a plan. Plan only becomes effective when somebody comes and develops that property. Okay, so that's what we've been saying all along, is that, we're here to develop a plan for the future of the city. That lower corridor serves the 150 to 200 acres of that lower portion for transportation, water, loops, everything else that's going to be in. Both access to parks, trails, and recreation spaces, access to the Swalton River in essence, like that is the critical backbone component to having that access. And so, putting that information into a document that people understand. Also understanding that what we propose is a balanced transportation network. Like what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to propose a balanced transportation network that reduces congestion, reduces cut-through traffic, reduces impact to our seniors and vulnerable communities. That's what we set out to do here, and that's what this plan does. As a road that's controversial that goes through a neighborhood that's been there since the 19th. It goes across the Bankston easement. We understand that too. The initial alignment went through the middle of the Bankston easement, and after discussions and working with Columbia Land Trust, as we were supposed to, or as we were directed to do through Metro, is we adjusted that alignment as far to the north and still trying to reduce any impacts to homes and things of that nature. So then our.
I think it's really, I want to jump in really quickly too, is because I think it's really important that people understand is that we set out from the beginning to not destroy people's homes in order to make this plan a reality. And that was a goal, right, that we really laid out very, very early on in 2017, is that, right, taking away people's homes for future growth is just not something that as a small community we really, right, we have to, we all live here, right? So, stealing houses away from people is not really what we wanted to accomplish. And so, and that, a lot of that has been, over time, people just, right, I mean, no one's lived it, breathed it from the beginning except a few of us, so. Right.
I'm kind of born of people with goals being inclusive and protection of marginalized and vulnerable communities. That where this kind of builds out of. How do we protect those low-income areas? How do we protect our seniors? And ensure that our growth impacts don't unnecessarily affect them. So we tried to come up with ways to protect those low-income areas. And having that corridor along that southern end. So there's multiple elements here, a lot of thought and concept and everything that went into this, and from 2016, 2017 with our first set of consultants, through to 2000 with our second set, and then from 2000 to 2020. So every step of the way, that has been a progress. And how do we participate? How do we build a cohesive? Not going to create like these silo communities that are like walled in or don't want to. All those.
Which to some degree we already had. And I think that's what people really forget, right, is that, you know, the 4th of July Festival, right, was the first event in King City that actually had participants from both sides of the community. And that was the whole goal of me creating that, because up until that point, right, the KCCA and the kind of, right, that group, now they had events and they had some events that were open to the public that everyone could come to, right, but in practice, no one outside of the, you know, of the KCCA was attending. No one from Edgewater were attending those events. And it was quite funny because my husband and I started going to some of the events and we were like, this is so fun. And then we quickly realized there's actually some events that no, you're not really supposed to go to, and some that you are. And that was confusing. And then there was like all of these fun community events at Deer Creek, right, where no one from the 55 and older community knew about or came to because they don't have small children there necessarily. And so then you had all these kind of younger, kind of school-focused community events that weren't being shared or participated by kind of this other side of the city. So we had a bifurcated city that never met, never merged, didn't, you know, for a long time, traditional King City didn't even know that we had a municipal park in Edgewater. And how many years did it take us to even get people down to the park, to know about the park, that was not the Edgewater Community Park, that wasn't the neighborhood park, that was the city's park and free to everyone and yada, yada, right? And
Anniversary is
exactly, right, right.
Which was great. People were like, I didn't even know it was part of it.
Right.
And we've done so many improvements to that park. And I think we continue to try to bring the community together. And knowing what challenges are ahead of us with this growth and everything else. And I think that was one of the founding pillars of what was in the transportation plan and in the master plan and everything else.
So I guess at this point, I mean, we're not taking any action. We have about 10 minutes left. So you know, yeah.
I can roll this into more of like, this is what we know statement, and then just have it on I think we have a frequently asked questions portion to each of our planning documents, but I can try to throw this stuff up there. I mean, I think the key points that we want to point out is that one, Fisher Road is really a 2-lane road, one lane eastbound, one lane westbound. Doesn't go all the way to Fisher Road. It's a corridor. Roy Rogers and corridor and network of streets. Do we want to talk about other elements that, you know, no development happens without going through the proper permitting process, and that happens at the development stage, not.
Yes.
First of all, well, it happens at the land sale.
Right.
So, first is a land sale. Then is the application for development to the city, to the planning commission.
Well, there's more than that, like you still have to go through your pre.
Oh, yeah, right. Army
Corps of Engineers and, no fisheries and everybody else,
Sure.
you go through that whole process before you can even develop. Like, all we are doing is planning corridors to make sure that the land uses that are being predicted in our crystal ball at 25, 50 years out from now have the proper systems of infrastructure to support them. Happens unless they develop their property. That's it's in here. You know, I think that there's other components, we could talk about the 200 linear feet for if it's an intersection, if it's a type D intersection, versus the 100 if it's a type A. One of our new hire, Max, has been working on a map that kind of shows a circle, or like a circle might look like and where those intersections. Kind of imagine how that might be able to connect in different. The fact that so far we've expended about $1.2 million in grant funds so far, from the concept plan through the transportation system plan and now through the master plan. And we probably have another 100,000 or so to do on the local wetland inventory over the course of the next year or so for Kingston Terrace East. Right now we have the local wetland inventory on for Kingston Terrace West, as well as the annexation request from the New Home Company for the 215 acres of that portion. Now, those are the areas we expected to go. We are seeing other property owners here and there inquiring, but they are going to have a pretty extensive uphill process if they haven't already started, right? The thing with New Home and PCD is that they've been doing their pre-development applications and joint applications and everything for years prior to this particular annexation request, because they thought that we would be done 2 years ago. We were projected to be done. I think we were projecting initially to be done with all this planning work by the end of 2021. December of 2021, that was our target. But then COVID hit, and then
before that, we chose based on listening, right? And in fact, what is very funny is I was the one that moved for it, despite all the changed history to now. But we heard the concerns of the community back in 2020, and if not before that, and 2019, and we chose to ask the consultants to take a pause, reevaluate the alternatives, and we chose to spend an additional $100,000 to do it. And that added a year's time to everything.
$150,000 in a relook at all the alternatives.
Right, because we said this is so important, and we know that this is a contentious issue. We don't want to get it wrong. We want to make sure it's right. And what happened? The experts came back with the exact same conclusions.
Slightly different alignment.
A little different alignment. We made a little bit of shifts around, but what didn't happen was an entirely new, completely new route that hadn't been contemplated before was found. And we specifically asked them to figure out anything else, any other way, whatever, and all the modeling data and the analysis and the graph and the, whatever's, the methods, it all came back to the same thing.
When we look at the network of streets, the one that was finally adopted was the one that was the most balanced, that provided the best opportunities to reduce congestion and reduce that cut-through traffic. So that's why it's recommended.
So I guess specifically, what is your thoughts about taking some of this information, creating a new kind of FAQ, making it available in some way that's not attached, I think one of the things, and I sparked feedback, is I think we eventually, if you go onto the website, you can eventually click your way to what the information you want to find. But it's not super intuitive. It's not right in your face. You do have to kind of click and here and there. And that was by no means designed to keep information from people or to try to not have people be educated. It's just very hard to build a system that's so intuitive, right? And what's intuitive to me might not be intuitive to Mark, right? And so, but I think maybe just a very clear landing page somewhere that says FAQ, and then you can go straight to it, I think would be helpful for everything we do, not just this, but.
We can try to, like I mentioned earlier, legal counsel and I were not in favor of doing bargaining. And, so if desires to scrap this and turn it into we put as an information piece, I'm perfectly content with that. And
All right. Anything else? Ronnie, did Shauna come online at all? I just want to make sure she's here to give her an opportunity to discuss. All right. Otherwise, anyone else have any other comments about the resolution? That we have 6 more minutes. We can take a 5 before we come back for council meeting. Any discussions? We're good.
No, I think
Do we?
we covered it.
Yeah. Mike, do we need a motion to adjourn?
yeah, I think for official.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the work session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Or raise your hand. All right. Motion carries. We are adjourned. We will come back for a council meeting in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Oh. Do you have,
I need water.
Hopefully everyone can hear us. We did get some new mics,
Yeah, I saw that.
so hopefully they're picking up ours.
All right. All right, we'll go ahead and get this meeting started. Councilor Thompson is on her way and will be here shortly. Let's see, it's 5:02, Mike. We will just have her join us. So, Mike, why don't you open us up for roll call?
All right. Counselor Petrie.
Here.
Counselor Rotuli. Here. Counselor Manella.
There.
Mayor Fender.
Here.
And just for note, Counselor Thompson will be in a moment, and Counselor Moore is out sick.
All right, thank you. So first, for those of us joining online, we have new microphones in the room. We are hoping that this is going to be better for you. I was not at the last council meeting, but I do apologize. My understanding is that the audio was excruciatingly poor and just frankly didn't work. So we heard that feedback and we're taking steps. I would ask anyone on Zoom, go ahead and try to, for any of the chat, can individuals send you messages on Zoom? So I would just ask anyone if it's good or bad, or if you have feedback online, it would be helpful for us to kind of know. So I encourage you to either message Ronnie Smith while you're on Zoom or email him following the meeting. But we hope that we will have addressed these issues. So, all right. So tonight, we have as our first order of business, we have our minutes. So we have several minutes to review and approve. We have minutes from December 20th, 2023, December 11th, 2023, and August 9th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Any issues or comments?
I'm finding, I don't remember which one. There was, I think it's a spelling error on someone's name. It says Tude instead of Todd, I believe. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay. We can certainly approve with that change if we need to, but we'll kind of give you all a moment.
Yeah, it was August, which one is it? The August 9? It says, for resolution R 2023-09, that Tude Chase from FTS Group, and I think it's Todd.
Yeah.
And then there was another place down in the minutes that with his same name.
Was it spell checker? Yeah.
Yeah, spell checker. Yeah, exactly. It's not getting
spell
exact.
checker was like
Yeah, section A, Ronnie.
I think that's all I found.
All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns from the minutes? All right. I'll entertain a motion if we're ready.
I move to approve minutes from August 9th, December 11th, and December 20th, 2023.
Second.
Second. All right. Been moved and approved. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. All right. We have no special presentation this evening. We will have our open forum. I will say, following feedback from the last meeting, I personally put a little feelers out about whether it made sense to move open forum to later on the agenda or to keep it where it's at. I think that is a discussion for us to have at a later time. I'm not going to address that this evening, but I think just in the back of the mind for maybe our next work session or the future council's work session, having a little discussion on that. I think there's pros and cons to both, and there's certainly reasonableness to both. So, all right, with that being said, here we are. As most of those in the room and online will recall that in our October meeting, we were the victims of what's called a Zoom bomb. and it was hurtful and harmful to community members, and things were said that do not reflect the values, I think, of us here, us as a city. And then following that, we all received hate mail sent to us at our personal homes, which we then had to hand over to the police. That those activities continue. With that being said, I want to tip my hat to Ronnie, who kind of did some research and put together some thoughtful kind of information on how we can better protect the cities and the residents of having to deal with things like this. And so we came up with kind of a new preamble, and we are going to be a little more focused on agenda items and what specifically people are speaking to in the open forum, right? Everyone has a right to come and discuss, but coming in with hateful, harmful hate speech doesn't benefit anyone. And to the extent that we constitutionally can focus individuals so that we don't have to listen to that is great. But again, we have to balance with people's rights. So here we go. Providing our residents with an open forum to make public comments is vital to our democratic process. It ensures that every voice in our community has an opportunity to be heard at each council meeting. The council will be happy to receive your comments pertaining to items on the agenda, with the exception of public hearings for which testimony will be received and conducted in the proper form and manner at the time of the hearing, including questions, suggestions, complaints, and items for the future. Each person's time will be limited to 3 minutes. Please be advised that all participants in person or via Zoom are expected to conduct themselves respectfully and professionally. Interruptions of public meetings containing inappropriate comments, hate speech, sexually explicit content, foul language, or any language suggesting bodily harm to others will not be tolerated. If any participant engages in such conduct, the mayor or the chair of the meeting reserves the right to immediately mute and remove the offending individual from the meeting. This action aligns with our commitment to maintaining a safe and respectful environment for all participants. By joining this meeting, both in person and online, you acknowledge and agree to adhere to these guidelines. For in-person comments located outside of the council on the table out there, at the back of the room, is a comment registration form. Please write your name and all other required fields and provide it to Ronnie Smith. For comments via Zoom, please write your name, address, and state you are not an artificially intelligent robot. It says, affirmatively state that you are not an AI bot. So, fun. All right. With that, we will now open up to public comment, and we invite you to the podium. We will then take comments online. Dan? Okay, Dan, come in. So I know you know, place your name and your address, or your name and where you live on the record, but also please, before you begin, let us know what agenda item or information you are making comment to, please.
Bear with me, this will take 3 minutes and 3 seconds. That's all I can bear it down to.
No. All right.
My name is Dan Brenner. I live at 1 Southwest Lane.
So Dan, I just want, for a point of order, is this your recording?
It's my voice.
Is your voice?
Yes, Ronnie has written what I'm saying.
Oh.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure it's not someone, you're not playing a recording that someone else did. Okay. All right. That's fine.
All of your massive all-shield fissure connecting to Roy Riders. That takes the pressure of the recall. So you try to appease your citizens with your resolution. Now you backpedal and say there won't be a connector because fissure will only extend to a proposed terminus near the proposed 155th Avenue. This does nothing to 55th and Roy Rogers, saying that the profile of Fisher Road, which may currently exist, is disingenuous. No one is suggesting that you're changing what the road is. The thousands of vehicles that you have predicted daily will accomplish that for you. You always say that every last beef bed you have to condemn and raise 2 miles of homes. No one suggests widening all of beef bed but you. Incidentally, 2 miles on beef bed from 99 is just west of 147. In number 8 of your resolution, you acknowledge that the intersection of beef bed and 99 will need a profile modification. I read this to mean a widening of some sort. If this were accomplished, then a beef bed were to be widened from Roy Rogers eastward before any construction by both King City and Tigard, it could be widened to at least Elsa without condemning any structure or RJ. Instead, you've shown that you want to make beef bed neighbor-friendly with Tigard by installing central islands and making it an urban road so future residents can easily cross from one side to the other. This insinuates that your intention is to induce more traffic to utilize Fisher Road rather than stay at beef bed. The mayor has stated repeatedly that you requested an alternative study be conducted via another grant of $150,000 that halted your plans for over a year. If memory serves me correctly, this was then due to pressure from the community, not that you wanted to delay for that additional year. Regardless, what did this alternative study accomplish? Nothing much, really. All of the east-west routes were still there, except for the road that your map showed going through Calumet to 137th and beyond. Now, for some reason, it was changed to show a trail coming from Calumet to 137 before it becomes a road through Rivermead. That's simply an improvement for whoever lives on Calumet. Lastly, the opposition was vilified from the beginning for having the audacity to suggest that East Street and the mobile home park be extended westward. How dare we suggest that? Because those people are already disadvantaged and marginalized as it is. Marginalized communities. Are you aware that of the number of residents in Rivermead alone, over 52% of them are elderly, retired, on a fixed income? That is the definition of marginalized. We fall into this category and deserve to be protected from the ruination of our neighborhood also. Because yes, Mayor Fender, we are those you refer to as the some will be affected more than others. You will forever change and destroy Rivermead that's been here almost 20 years longer than King City. How can you ever think that we will all ever be one big happy city?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
303.
All right. So, we have Gary Mitchell up next. Thank you, Gary. And, are you speaking to a specific agenda item?
Generally about the recall.
Okay. It's not on the agenda?
Put it on there.
Okay, we'll listen up. Go ahead.
It might be under ongoing agenda items, I don't know.
It's not on the agenda. No.
Anyway,
All right. All right. I'm fine with that. We'll have you hear you. Just as a cautionary tale going forward, we are going to start making it a little more strict that agenda items or public comments are related to agenda items. This evening, we won't hold that to you or to it.
You will find that this is not strictly about the recall.
Okay. I'll listen, or we will listen up. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Gary Mitchell. I live at 13350 Southwest Kinnear Way, and thank you for letting me address my comments tonight. With the recall election now scheduled, the council and city employees should be advised of a statute, ORS 260432. In Oregon, ORS 260432 has restrictions regarding public employees engaging in political activity while on the job during working hours. Some of those rules may also apply to elected officials. The statute applies for recall petition efforts as soon as the prospective petition is filed. It incurred significant legal fees when it revoked the recall petitions and then had to defend but lost against the Secretary of State complaint against King City. The restrictions of ORS 260432 exist for a reason. We are now in the election phase, and I hope the recall election will play out fairly and without interference by those that are to remain neutral. Please exercise judgment when making media statements that are not neutral or may appear to be against the recall election. And also avoid any other city actions such as political sign removal despite newer, more lenient rules. Thank you for my time.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have Carla Sangster. How are you doing? Okay.
But what I think is something being kind of, we don't see it. But what you are able to do is tell the developers where they can put it. So that's the change. Where that road is gonna go.
Carla, can you speak up just a little bit, or yeah, put the microphone there.
Better?
Thank you, yeah, it's just for the people online, I think they said they couldn't hear.
Sorry.
No problem.
Codes say that a type A intersection of feet. So, with better when the road goes through the one road. Nobody is asking to redo the whole plan, just move one road a ways north. The natural resource survey that was used in determining, in the dashboard, that's pages long. Go on, for my that's all, thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else in the room who didn't sign up who would like to speak before we moved on to those online? We have two individuals who would like to speak online, it's my understanding. The first is Mike Meyer and then Viva Gaylor. So Mike, please state for the record your name, your address, and then we will have you begin.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yep, we can.
Okay, Mike Meyer, 16950 Southwest Meyer Lane, Tigard. Sorry I can't be there to enjoy the fun. I have COVID. First item I'd like to speak about here is the city council vacancy notice that was put out on December 21st. I know that Mike's resignation was effective on December 31st. And per the notification, it specifies your municipal code 238050 and 060, but also there's 010 and 020. And in 010, it says that the vacancy will be initiated at the time a vacancy exists. So that would have been 12/31. not 12/21. So my point is that according to the municipal code, then the 30-day period for accepting applications would begin on either 12/31 or 1/1, depending on how you read that. So just want to make that point clear. The rest of it seems to jive with an earlier 238.010. I think the municipal code may have changed in format recently, but it all seems to read the same way. So just want to make that point. And then I know that I've talked about the planning commission being understaffed for quite a long time, since last February, but so has the budget committee. Minus five vacancies out of a total of 7 from community members. And I bring that up because at one of the last meetings on December 20th, I had never, I guess, really paid attention to the fact that you were approving monthly financials for May of 22 and June of 22. And the agenda for tonight shows approval of monthly financials from July 22 to June of 23. And I was just curious, it's more of a question. I know you can't answer questions, but under the duties of the city manager, one of the duties is under 2.08040D, prepare and submit to the mayor and council financial activity reports with respect to each of the city departments, not less than monthly. So I'm wondering if those two are tied together. I know you can't answer my question. I was just curious as I was going through some budget information. In regards to the earlier workshop, I think that if I held a workshop or we held a workshop and we invited you, I think that the conversation would be quite different. And I don't quite understand how there can be two such completely different versions of events. I've been to most every meeting, I think, in the last several years. If I wasn't there physically, I at least listened to the audio recordings of the meetings, sometimes several times. And I can't think of a time where I heard somebody.
Mike, I'm going to let you finish up your thoughts, but you are hitting your 3 minutes. So if you can just succinctly bring your thought to a conclusion. Thank you.
I just can't think of a time where I heard anybody threaten Mayor Fender with recall. And it just seems that these rumors, such as the connection of the Fisher Road extension from 137th to the existing Edgewater, I think came about from a comment that was made by Mike Weston with the West Side Trail, saying that when that area was developed at the same time, it made sense to put the road in as well. And the timeline on that would be somewhere between 1 to 5 years. And I think that's where some of that concern came from, was that connection would happen, along with Weston saying that there was getting close to a triggering event at the 131st and Beef Bend intersection that may require that connection to allow 137th to be used to access Fisher Road. So I think that's where that, I don't have time to go on to all the other many points, but I think that's where part of that may come from, is the combination of West Side Trail with potential roadway between the two. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Meyer. You have reached your time limit, and we appreciate your comments. Hopefully we'll address some of them later in the agenda. All right, Viva Gaylor, you have, I believe you are next, and you have 3 minutes. If you can please put your name and your address on the record, and then let us know what agenda item you're speaking to.
Thank you. Viva Gaylor, 12700 Southwest Beef Bend Road. And I just wanted to encourage people to volunteer for the open positions on both the Budget Committee and the Planning Commission, that we don't tend to have enough volunteers to fill out the position. It the budget committee is probably the easiest one when you work full-time like I do, because it is not a huge time commitment to conflict with your work. I want to thank all of our volunteers that help in the city. And thanks, Mike, for reviewing all the municipal code and keeping people on their toes. I don't agree with the recall, and I don't agree with your efforts. As a granddaughter of the mother of Oregon, growth has come to God's country because everybody wants to live here, and we need to share. And we can't be not in my backyard, go move it to yours. Thank you, and thank you, volunteers.
Thank you, Viva. Is there anyone else online who would like to speak? All right, that concludes our open forum. We will now move on to unfinished business and to 7A Resolution 2023-14. A quick recap for Shauna. So I think a general summary of what the work session discussion was we kind of, I just first say I gave what my interpretation of kind of how we got to the resolution, because I felt like that kind of had been missing. So I read Mr. Olson's email. I summarized the meeting that individuals had with Mr. Olson and Mr. Meyer. We then kind of discussed if the resolution was, you know, germane or not germane, and kind of all of that. And I think we kind of, the four of us, and then with Mike, kind of concluded or thought that turning the information from the resolution into like a facts and questions kind of statement or something on the website, so that the information is still out there, but that it's less formal and less legally kind of esque, so that the information would still be out there, but not in the form of a resolution. And so that was kind of the general discussion and kind of outcome. Obviously, we took no action because it was a work session. And so I don't know if you want to speak to anything of that, or if you kind of agree, but I think that we kind of felt that this was a good example, or at least I used this this was an example where having one meeting a month, right? Yeah. Sometimes like things happen in real life and events move on, and we haven't caught up with them because we only have one meeting a month, and we kind of felt that, or at least I felt that. I think generally we all felt that that's kind of where we're at. That it's kind of the resolution's moved at this point. Yeah. So I agree. So I don't know, at this point, it's on the agenda. I don't know if anyone wants to make any, further statements. I don't know if any of you who met with Mike want to respond to his statement that he felt that the meeting, the takeaway from the meeting was different from kind of our takeaway.
I'm not going to go back and forth on this.
No, I also will. Yep.
I don't think we need a motion, right? We can just shelf.
I don't think so. I think it's just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least,
You tabled it, so you do need a motion.
Okay, so because it was tabled, we'll need a motion. So unless there's more discussion on it, if you want, I'll entertain a motion from someone.
Motion to disapprove resolution 2023-14. And
But make it in more like a
And
FAQ.
maybe direct staff to take the information and turn it into right.
And direct staff to
modify into information
modify it into
piece on the website.
an information piece on the website.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Do you need a roll call on this one because it's?
Okay. So who, Mark, you were the second. Resolution is disapproved, and then we'll work to modify the language more.
Thank you. All right, so So we're moving on to new business. The first on the agenda is going to be the financials. I do think it would be helpful, Mike, if you gave a brief kind of overview and understanding as to just the timeframes and why we're dealing with these financials, and then we'll take it from there. Okay.
So at the last meeting, as I droned on for hours, and I apologize, I was discussing why we got so backed up and why there was a bit of a logjam there. In 2022, we transferred from QuickBooks to Casell. That caused about a 3-month training backlog as we tried to transfer all that data into Casell. That created a situation where we got behind, and then it also complicated when we moved all that information to our contract accountant, Mike Marr's accounting, which then didn't work or mesh very well with his accounting software system. So there was a lack of how do you want to say it? Bottom line is the software didn't communicate with each other, and so we had a problem getting everything to transfer and everything to get cleaned up, and it took for us to do that. Not only that, our accountant, Mike Marrs, was behind. So when we did finally get our end fixed and sent over to Mr. Marr, it took almost 3 to 4 months from his end to even start getting our first set of financials. And so we didn't even get our last set of financials from that fiscal year until September of 23 this year. Right?
Yeah.
So we finally got, in September of 23 this year, the final balance statement for June of the prior year in 22. So that was the backlog, and that's why we were so far behind, and that's why we weren't able to get Casell to present and produce the financial statements that you have today. So all the financial statements that Casell will print out on a monthly basis for us, we couldn't print out because we didn't have the starting or end balance for that fiscal year yet. So once we were able to get that from Mr. Marr, then we were able to finish our audit, confirm that that was our final balance statement, and once we had that, we were able to ask Casell to print out the financial statement. So hopefully now, moving forward, we go into Casell and say, print our financial statements, and boom, we have our financial statements. Now that the logjam is busted-free, now you have an overload of financials, and that's why I asked Mira to come and discuss some of those financials. And aware of all these financial systems and may be able to address any concerns that you might have with the financials. Also asked our auditors to come back on January 17th and explain why the budget itself looks like the staffing has doubled when it really hasn't. It's this building and some of our capital assets being rolled into those figures. And that's why, one, our financial position decreased from $1.8 million to $300,000, and why those items went from like $600,000 to like $1.2 million. So what they did is they took this building, which was the total infrastructure cost of $1.5 million, plus infrastructure costs for vehicles and everything else, rolled those into capital assets and applied them to each particular funding branch. What is it?
Deduct from the expenditure.
From our expenditures per operating component. So whether that's the administration, the city manager, the street, the police, they applied that to the capital infrastructure piece, and that caused a huge doubling of our expenses on this. Now that number will be depreciated out as this building is paid off over this thing. So, but for now, it looks like our costs for operating personnel and everything. Quite concerning for us, and we sent it over to the auditor with, please explain this, and multiple times, and I don't think we ever really got a clear explanation until ago. finally got them to break it down, oh, it's this, and this is that. That's what we thought it was, but we didn't have that, like, in writing from the auditor on what exactly that was. And when we asked them, they gave us, a very complicated and not very clear explanation of that. Ask them to come and explain it, because I'm sure they can explain it a lot better than I can, and we'll be wanting to.
So I think that's good. Again, I was sick, I had COVID at the last meeting, so I didn't, I wasn't there, but, traditionally, we've always had the auditor come to present to us, to be available and answer questions. I think that's critical here. I would like to have them do that. I'm not sure if it makes more sense to table the financials to next time so that we get that, or if any of those questions are tied up, but regardless, I think that opportunity is going to be important to have them come in. So, I don't think we need to do that, but, if others feel that, but, I know the two different systems has not as been a smooth transition as we all had hoped.
Yeah, and also I want to point out that they the whole budget. Audit. The 21-22 audit completed final report was on December 2023. Now, it took 1 year for him to, so we were struggling. That's one of the reasons we our accountant. We can't use hands on him anymore, just
Right.
so he has other business,
Right.
So, from now on, we can.
And I just, since, Ron, for those on Zoom, Ronnie handed, Mira a microphone, and my assumption is some people on Zoom didn't hear you. So I just wanted to restate that one of the things that you had said was that our accountant picked up the financials in September in 2022, and then spent an entire year before the auditor could get his packet back and what he had to prepare. So I think what I'm hearing you kind of say is that there's multiple people who rely on information from the other people, and if there's one person that's delaying, that obviously is going to have a knock-on effect and delay everyone else's work. So
yeah, now we are using Excel system, kind of like
right.
Accountant.
And I think one of the things to let people, or to remind people why we switched over to Cassell was that previously our accountant used QuickBooks, and
we use QuickBooks.
And we use QuickBooks.
Different.
Oh, sorry, we use QuickBooks, and based on prior audits, one of the comments were that there's kind of a move away from QuickBooks, so that the system is kind of locked and people can't go in and kind of change it. And so we decided to move over to Cassell. A lot of other municipalities and agencies that do budget work like this use Cassell. And so we moved over to that. But it is a completely new system. It is, right, there's a learning curve. It's the transferring the information, inputting the data, all that. So we kind of understand that. So. Other people have other comments, but that was just what I wanted to say, so I leave it to everyone else.
So hopefully the council has had the opportunity to review the financials that are in the packet. I think based on the number of financials, I'll bore everybody to death if I go through line by line and go through this. I think when you look at the summary page on the front side, you'll see that at the very bottom where our beginning fund balance is. You'll also see on the right-hand side of where the projected percentage of budget should be. And then if you follow that down the line, you'll see where we are on those expense expenditures or, our budget. If there's anything in those lines that maybe, ring a bell or are worrisome, then I have Mira here to help us address those. And we're happy to go over that. What you will see is that historically what we do is we budget conservatively. We try to budget high on what our expenses might be in the hope that we will spend less than that. And so typically what you'll find is that our ending fund balance will hopefully increase over time. And so when you look at that front sheet of every single one of the months from July 22 through May of 23, you'll see that that bottom line has increased from roughly 2.3 million to about 2.7 million. And I think based on our final audit numbers for what we're projecting, is closer to a $3 million ending fund balance that will be carried over in the next year. So that's our goal, is to always overestimate expenditures and then come under budget preferably. So with that, we also know that we are a small city, so we also budget very tightly. And so we try to stretch those resources as far as we can and get as many personnel and as many resources as we can out of what little bit we have for a city of our size. We do have one of the lower tax rates in the metro region. We're about 50% of what our surrounding cities, Tigard, probably 1/4% of what Beaverton is, and probably 1/6% of what Lake Oswego and others are. So, also don't have a lot of outside revenues, such as fees associated with water service, sewer service, parks and rec. So none of those things are associated with our financials. We are tax-based and service-based. The majority of our revenue comes from, with the exception of the grants that we're able to. We don't have a lot of resources, but what little resources we do have, we try to stretch as far as we can. Are there any questions? I mean, I go through them if you want, one by one. We can start with the July financials. Are there any questions on the July financials? And August financials? September 22 financials?
The only question I have, and I think it's on all of them, it says revenue water, 90,000. What's that? Okay.
So we have franchise fees with PGE, Tigard Water, and other Pride, Frontier, Clean Water Services.
City, free funds, not here, now on the general fund.
That's our
Water, okay.
water service. Anything else on September? October, you can kind of see if you're looking at that bottom line, that before taxes come in, we're kind of dipping down.
Mm-hmm.
And November is when you're gonna start seeing those tax tranches start coming back in. November, any questions? To December.
I take it like where it's in red, that's just Casell. Like we're on,
With the fund balance asset,
Yeah,
year-to-date change is in red
Right.
on every one.
right.
And is it specifically calling it out for a purpose, or is it just why is that red and nothing else? Okay.
My eyes.
I know what I mean.
Are you talking about the street fund?
Let's see, it's just,
It's under revenues, it says fund balance, fixed asset, current year-to-date change, and then,
Which fund?
Yeah, that's,
You're talking about that.
$730,934.
There's a note
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Oh. Oh, okay. Okay.
Note at the.
At the bottom of the page.
Okay, just for people who aren't following along.
So whenever it's red, there's a note down at the bottom.
It says, audit team has established a new method for capitalization of fixed assets and depreciation.
Mhm.
The number in red reflects an update for the new method.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, good. I didn't see that either, yeah.
If you'll recall, we had something where we got the advice from the auditor on what their new systems for accounting were, and we brought that to the council. Because we had to depreciate it off, or we had to write it off of our books, and there was a substantial reduction in what our net position was gonna be when we wrote off was it 11 million that we wrote off as like street fund,
Yeah.
assets that we depreciated it off. So it took it looked like a great position of, well, we're worth $20 million, and now we're only worth $12 million. We depreciated it off 11 or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was a huge number that the auditor suggested that we depreciate off, so. January of 23, any questions on January 23? February. Questions on February 23? I see the bottom line revenues are,
Mhm.
once again, if you start climbing back up.
Mhm.
March of 23, probably like our high point, usually in March, that's when all the tax revenues are in.
I always like this budget. Right?
Into April. This is usually in April is when we start watching that right-hand side to make sure that we're staying within budget of our expenditures. You see in April, we're trying to shoot for about 80%. So if we see one of those lines start going over that, I mean, for the most part, most of these are 40, 50, 60% of budget, which means that we're in pretty good shape for those. If I see one in that line that's up like 100 or something close to that effect, that often would require us to come back to the council for a supplemental budget around that time frame. Moving in from April to May. Questions on May. And from May to June. I believe that's the last one for that fiscal year. You don't have any questions on those? I do have Mira here as a resource to try to answer anything that may have popped out, or if you have questions on.
I think my kind of question is just what, and this is generally kind of for both of you, what is the time frame that we expect to be fully integrated over to Cassell, and that we are, I mean, I know that we still have this outstanding item with our accountant and so forth about who, you know, that's some personnel decisions that will come at some point, but as far as, you know, what's our anticipation that we won't have this happen again, or, you know, moving forward, what's it going to look like, I guess, as a...
We are fully integrated with it.
Okay. Okay.
I believe we still have some things to do with their accountant. Scope of work on some of the elements that we expect from them on a monthly and daily basis. Verifying our bottom lines, verifying our account balances. Some of those elements are still finer details. We still need to probably work out with them and have a thorough understanding with them on what we expect their deliverables to be. But for the most part, that transition period occurred between January and June of that 22 year that caused all the backlog.
Okay.
And so then it just took, about full year to get all that information processed and through and integrated to a new system. And the whole time we've been using Cassell since then and just waiting for that logjam from 22 to come through so that we could plug in the starting figure and then plug out our computation. So we've been tracking everything we've been doing in Cassell since that time. So we just didn't have what the beginning balance was going to be because we didn't have the ending fund balance in 22 because we were waiting on that from our accountant, Mike Martin, and getting the audit done. So we never had that number. We couldn't plug it into Cassell as our starting point, put out our computation.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right.
Other
Other questions, comments? Yes.
I have a question about, so how are we doing with the passport revenue and tax time and all of that? How are we doing?
It's gone down considerably from where it was after COVID opened up. So if you recall, right in 2020, when they relaxed the parameters on COVID and allowed people to start traveling again, we were the only place open in general vicinity. So we had anywhere from 90 to 100 people coming through here on a daily basis. I think we were processing somewhere around 100 passport applications to 125 passport applications on any given day. Just insane. It was standing room only in here, standing room only in there, and COVID was going on. So everybody over here was health concern. But that has since tailed off. We still have our high points. I think we just, over the holidays, we had like 78, 79 on a given day over the holidays because everyone's out of school. So anytime there's a no school day, it's got 2 to 3 people up front, plug it through passports all day. For the most part through the week, it's kind of leveled out. So we've reopened Wednesday and we've extended our hours again. So now we're back to our regular operating hours, 9 to 4. And then we're also open on Wednesdays for passports as well. So we've expanded our hours of operation now, and it's just been steady instead of the incredible influx that we saw in 2020, 2021, and 2022.
And so you know there's no school Friday.
Probably did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's no school Friday.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay, if there's no questions or comments, then I'll entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove, disallow, reject, the financials.
Sure.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and approved. Mike, do you need to take a roll call, or you want to just use your eyeballs?
Fine.
Okay, all right, all those in favor to approve the financials from July 22 to June 23.
I just want to abstain from this. I did not have a chance to thoroughly do all the financials, so I'm.
That, or I was just thinking for a number of things that work.
All those in favor?
All in favor, say aye. All right, financials are approved. Okay, moving on. So the next I have is called ongoing agenda items. Presenter Mike. No documents attached.
Yeah, so basically we had the mayor asked to have OGC and recall stuff as an ongoing item on the agenda. If we don't have anything to report on that, I just assume not have it on the agenda. If that's all right with the council, and that way we can focus on the city business that's at hand. And if there's something to report, then we can suggest adding something to the agenda.
I would just say on behalf for the OGEC complaints, there's been no movement, no update. Again, just as a reminder, there is a hearing date in March. Our attorneys have spoken to the investigator, and nothing, the last update I had was that nothing was going to happen through the holidays until January. So we might have, some communication might come through between now and the next meeting. And I'm happy, Mike, if you want to move it from an actual separate agenda item, and I will just update everyone during my mayor's, update portion, I'm happy to do that, because, I think it's important that we say affirmatively, there's no update to provide, or we provide an update if there is one. And I think just for clarity's sake, I don't think it necessarily has to be its own agenda item, but I can just make sure to include it in my mayor's update on the agenda, so
Right.
that's fine.
That would be appreciated, because it's also important that it's not really city business.
Mhm.
Like the OGEC thing and the recall thing, yes, it's here, it's happening in King City, but it's not really something that the staff is involved with or has any part in. So I don't think it's something that has anything to do with the business at hand that we need to be focusing on. And we have a lot of stuff that's gonna be coming at us, and I think it's gonna be important that those agendas address the city business that's on hand, And so, also that just, it prevents a lot of angst and animosity with meetings and, consternation about stuff that's not really relevant to the business at hand. And so I think that those are important aspects of conducting a efficient and effective business meeting like this is supposed to be, and be able to move on as a city. Things like that, just hanging out on the agenda is just a bad wound to keep open.
So I will make it a commitment that I will address at every meeting when I have an update, at least through February 13th. And then we don't need a separate agenda item, but that way, we're still giving people information that they deserve to have, but we don't need to have it as a separate, because there's really nothing much else to talk about other than just giving people an opportunity to know what's happening. So, sure.
Since the recall is brought up, I just want to say again my stance on the recall, and that's that I do not support the recall of my fellow counselors. I don't think they're deserving of the recall. I don't think this is the proper way to handle the situation. I just want to make sure that whoever is listening out there knows that I don't support the recall, and I just urge everybody to vote no on recalling my fellow counselors and the mayor.
Thank you, Shauna. I appreciate that.
I have one little thing on that. That probably should have, just a point of order, probably should have been under unfinished business instead of new business.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. We acknowledge the mistake. I will say, I do not take kindly to being called a liar. So I want to make one statement. Just in the quick second that I pulled up my email here, I can just tell you from October 24th, 2022, an email from Carl Swanson stating King City Terrace Master Plan. It is a very long email. I'm not going to read the whole email, but I will tell you this came shortly after the open house that was held at Deer Creek. And so he says, after this open house, current King City leaders will again be able to check the box that they gave an opportunity for the public, and then they can ignore the public once again and do what they wanted, selecting an alternative that extends Fisher Road all the way to Roy Rogers Road and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he goes on and on and on and on and on. And then he says, as the master plan moves forward over the next year or so, the current King City leaders will probably still think they have this all figured out and can continue to boast to others that they didn't think they could do it until things start breaking, and here are just a few examples. Extensive court challenges necessary for eminent domain. Then he goes in to explain what he means. Extensive LUBA court challenges for Goal 5. He goes on to say what he means. Extensive LUBA court challenges related to Goal 6. Goes on to say what he means. Extensive LUBA court challenges related to Goal 7. Again, goes on to say what he means. And then he says, no, actually, this will not go well. And when things get bad enough, there will be a recall of the current mayor and current councilors, and the new leaders will find a new city manager to work cooperatively with the public on new development, just like it was done when the Edgewater community was planned. It is really unfortunate for all of us here that none of the current King City leaders have that experience. And then he goes on several more paragraphs. He also stated at the public meeting that I would be recalled. Another individual also shouted, "You are not my mayor. I did not vote for you. I will recall you, or I will work to recall you." Again, I don't have it recorded in front of me, so I am paraphrasing. But that exchange was videotaped by another person who attended that meeting because they were concerned for my safety and wanted that interaction to be recorded. I will simply say this. I am inundated by people on email, sometimes on phone. People come past my house. People talk to me in public. People call me. I communicate a lot with a lot of people. And I try very hard to be very accurate with what I experience and what is said to me. And when I say I have been harassed and that I have felt intimidated and pressured, and I have had people shout and use expletives at me in public in front of my children about my service to this community, I am not lying. I am happy to provide the evidence of that. I take great offense to the fact that any of the poor things that I have personally suffered through, that my family has suffered through as part of my service here, to have someone minimize it or to tell me or to tell others that that didn't happen is just very upsetting. This is a very personal thing to me because I give my personal time, I give time away from my children to this community. I do so unpaid. I do countless hours to this community. And I do not expect everyone to like me. I do not expect everyone to agree with me. But I sure as hell am not going to stand for it when someone says that I'm lying about mistreatment that I have had. So with that, I will leave it. I'm sure I have countless other examples, which I'm happy to provide if someone wants to get in touch. I don't have anything else to say about the recall personally. I don't really think it is a very difficult, needle to thread because we have real business to attend to. We have real impact of all of, having 65% of a board be lost in one fell swoop is very damaging to that board and organization. It doesn't matter if it's a city, if it's a company, if it's whatever. So we have a serious task ahead to balance the repercussions of a possible recall, which very much impacts the city, and trying to balance it against advocating or campaigning or being perceived to advocate or campaign. The city has to stay neutral, and yet there's still a lot of things that have to be discussed and decided between now and February 13th. And so these are all very complicated. We are human. We are people. So we are trying to navigate this with as much grace and as much respect and without, with as much integrity as we possibly can. And if anyone else has comments to share, they can. Otherwise, I will get off this soapbox and we can move on.
I guess my only thought was, I'm not sure if we need to share in this meeting that the signatures were verified and that there is going to be, or if that's already been.
We haven't really. I think that's a really good point. I think just to give everyone the clear understanding of what happened, Washington County has certified all of the signatures. Micah Paulson, they've purchased a new house and they're moving out of King City, and so he felt that instead of staying on for several more months through when he actually moved, that it was more appropriate for him to resign right then. So he's resigned, and then Mark and Shauna are not being recalled. The rest of us are, and that election will take place on February 13th. And applications are open for
every council, planning commission, and budget.
Well, for Micah's seat, right?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
one on city council, on planning commission, we're still waiting for, Counselor, to resign her seat on the planning commission as well, because I think they move in January.
Yep.
So that means she'll have to get a budget committee with that.
We have, so, I guess appointments, since we just opened the door, I have a follow-up question on the appointments. Do we want to wait until later, or?
I think well, it's not on the agenda, we're gonna,
Okay, so we'll move it there then, okay? Yep.
Are we doing, Counselor? Oh, no, not that. Update.
Interviews?
Update.
Not today, I don't think it's put on the agenda.
Oh.
It wasn't on the agenda because it's a special session, but, so I apologize.
Okay, but there's something I wasn't able to update you on last month because we didn't give the updates, but I think it's really important to disclose that I was approached by the head petitioners last month and asked to meet with them to discuss why I thought it was important that they withdraw their application to withdraw the petition for the recall for Councilor Manelis after they had already turned in all of their petitions for the other councilors, and his deadline was a week later. So I did meet with them and convince them why I thought it was important to leave Councilor Manelis on the council. And just to be transparent, my main reason behind that, I do really like working with Councilor Manelis, as I do with all of my councilors, who I also advocated for, but I just didn't think it was a good idea to leave one councilor on a council and have kind of the ultimate power to make decisions. I wouldn't want that power, and I wouldn't want anyone else to have that power. So I was really grateful that they decided to withdraw the petitions for Councilor Manelis. I wish I could have convinced them to withdraw the petitions for the other councilors as well, but I was unsuccessful in that. So I just wanted to disclose that.
It wasn't withdrawn, they just didn't turn in the signatures. So the deadline passed, basically, it was a moot point.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, then, any other discussion or points or questions related to ongoing agenda items? And I think, does everyone kind of agree that going forward, I'll just take the lead to give updates during my update portion? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. All right. Then we will move on to management contracts. So, those are awkward, Mike, but we'll throw it back to you for discussion. So I think it's really important that people understand, like, we have city employees, that include a police department and staff, we have a city manager, and there is much concern and I think I can collectively say this on behalf of that we are immensely concerned about the fiscal impacts that this recall will have. And I think that is one component that, without trying to campaign or fearmonger, the pure reality is there is a huge there will be financial considerations that need to be made as a result of the outcome if successful. And we need to understand what those are, the citizens need to understand what those are, and those discussions will continue to happen. Equally concerning, though, is employees and the protection of their employment, and that a new board coming in, right? We know. I just read it, right? We know that certain individuals behind the recall, the goal is also to change not only the leadership, which consists of the council, but the leadership of the city and of city staff. And so that would mean the chief of police, that would mean the lieutenant, that would mean our city manager, and that potentially could be any other employee here at the city, right? So it was very important to us that we started thinking about how can we protect employment when that seemed to be at risk. So with that caveat, Mike, why don't you give us a shout and
Sure.
start us off?
So we started negotiations with the commission probably,
Oh, yeah, Dima.
we started some management negotiations with the commission about a year or so ago before we actually started down the path of all the public hearings and land use stuff and those sort of things. And we talked about doing it during that time frame, but we just got so consumed by all the land use hearings that were going on, we didn't really have time for bringing up the management contracts.
Mike, hold on one second. Mayor, thank you for staying late and joining us tonight. We appreciate that, your time.
So we didn't really have any time to put those on the agenda and really go through, and so, we did an executive session to finalize some of those negotiations, present you with our requests. There wasn't any complaints with those requests, so therefore, the contracts that we're proposing are still unchanged from what those meetings were. Councilor Thompson asked about as to form, legally as to form. Yes, they're okay legally. The problem is that it might not be in the best interest of the city because it's a contract negotiation with the staff, and the staff is asking for better and higher benefits than what we had previously, and also some additional insurance. In that sense, it might not be in the best interest. I'll tell you straight, it's not in the best interest of the city. If I was giving you that advice, I'd say it's not in the best interest of the city to sign these. It does provide some security and insurance for the staff here, and will ensure that the management staff here is feeling secure and happy, and hopefully continue our employment for another 5, 10, 8. Ernie's been here, how long, Ernie, 20 years? 17 years. So we have some pretty long-standing people. Ernie's been here 17 years. Brian's been here 15. I've been here 8. Sam's been here 13. Mira's been here 14. More than me. So you have some staff here who have worked really hard, have really turned the corner for King City as a whole over the span. And so part of those negotiations were to, ensure that we're feeling secure and isolated from all the political chaos that we really have no involvement or control on. You've heard me say it before, our mission here is to make sure to do the best interest of the city, make sure the city is moving in a positive direction. We have a fiduciary responsibility, as well as yourself, to ensure that everything that we do is for the betterment of the city and its people, and to that end, that's what we try to do. So our contracts basically represent some modifications in the length of the termination. If you're terminated without cause, it gives you a larger buffer there. It addresses some of our reserves, so like sick leave, there's up to 1 month payout for sick leave. Hours of sick leave. But it just basically says, hey, we're not always taking sick time, we're not always taking vacation, those build up, and so it kind of just, there's our investment in the organization, and gives us an incentive not to go out and waste all of our sick leave at the last minute because we're not getting along. So, the other thing is it adds a vehicle, stipend for myself. Chief Hafala and Lieutenant Ziegler have vehicles issued by the city. I do not. So it gives me a vehicle allowance, which I did. Those are the high points. Salary stays the same as what it is currently. Just to give you just a rough estimate, I think mine's around 150, Ernie's is around 128, 130, and I think Brian's is around 19. So I think each one is separated by about 10 percentage points, and that's what we tried to structure them about 2-3 years ago, and that's about how they stay. To give you some estimates of what other folks are making in and around this area for an assistant, county manager of Washington County, 200 and change. For a director at Clackamas County, it's 190. For a planner at Tigard, it's like 100,000. For a chief in Walden, it's 200. And Tigard, right around 200 as well. So we're typically about 50,000 under our surrounding communities for what we do, and we have a lot of growth and a lot of pain our way, and a lot of growth and pains that we're gonna have to, work through. That's what's in the contract. I think you all have a copy of the contract. It's, posted online for those that, wanna read through them, but.
And I just want to come back to what you said earlier, because I don't want your words to be misused out there, which I'm sure they will be, but let's just clarify a little bit. When you say it's not in the best interest of the city, what you're really meaning is, in my opinion, how I accept that is, or how I'm understanding that, is that this is not an action that as a city or as a board that we necessarily have to take because you already have contracts in place and no one's given notice, no one's fighting for additional issues or whatever. And so therefore, as far as it being in the best interest of the city, it might not necessarily be an independently important action item to take, given, you know, if you just narrowly look at it as like, should we renegotiate your contract, Mike? Well, no, there's probably no reason to. But once you put that question into context as to what is happening currently with the political landscape around the city, and you look at the longevity that the three of you have been here, and you look at the fact that you all have stayed and given your loyalty to this organization, despite the fact that you are woefully underpaid as compared to your peers, all of those points are very important factors to take into consideration. So while I appreciate you telling us that on its own, in a silo, when you're looking narrowly at should this contract be renegotiated, right? Maybe in that limited analysis, maybe it isn't in the best interest of the city. But I will say this, and I think Chief Hapala can back me up, right? We have experienced over the years the financial burden it takes to replace employees and how difficult, especially in the police department, it is to get qualified individuals willing to take the pay that we provide here, right? Certainly there's benefits. I'm sure there's a lot of benefits to being a small city community police officer. Yeah, we can talk about that ad nauseum. But the reality is it is far more expensive to lose a good officer and spend a year, if not more, trying to replace that officer with another candidate. You know, how many times have we gone through applications and someone right when we're about to hire them gets somewhere else because they get more money? Or, we've gone through this time and time and time and time again. And so I worry that if we lose you, or we lose Chief, or we lose Lieutenant Sigler, we are, to our financial detriment, causing a huge vacuum of which is going to be very difficult to replace. And one of the biggest issues is that you have, loyalty and longevity of employment is great in some ways. It's also very terrifying in others because that means that you have institutional knowledge that's locked in the individual that's there, and if they go, you lose that knowledge. And to replace you and to replace all those things that you just know about and to catch someone else up and to bring on board someone else at the pace that we would need them to be, brought up to speed with, it's unfathomable when you think about you would also not have 65% of your board to help navigate that, to shepherd that in. And so then, it just, to me, it's such financial ruin that, I think that context of why it is important that we do this is more important than, technically Right, it's a very important factor, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and as a manager here and Ernie as well, like, we go through labor negotiations every 2 years. We're gonna have another one coming up
Yep.
here. And typically, they're negotiating, and it's the same thing here, is like, we're just negotiating for our best interests, and, the staff with the union will negotiate for their best
Of course.
interests, right? So, that's basically.
Right,
the goal.
you guys don't have any representatives to be able to advocate on yourself, so you have to duly advocate on behalf of the city and for yourself, and that's awkward and very difficult, and, right, I get it. But part of that is why we went to you guys and said, we want to put in some safeguards, we want to start this process so we can talk about that and take that off of your plate, because, you know, we really appreciate the years of service that you've given. You know, you have done amazing things with very limited budget, very limited staff support, community. I mean, there's just a lot of it, right? So, so I personally, I guess, let's shift, unless anyone has comments to talk about that. I feel like I'm assuming everyone kind of agrees with that. If you don't agree, I welcome your input, like, obviously, but, let's kind of transition over to the contracts themselves, because at this point, what do you? Yeah, okay.
Well, I just want to agree with you. Thank you. Mike, Chief, and all the staff. I mean, we all know today the challenges are recruitment and retention. Big one. I mean, COVID has really changed.
Oh, yeah.
People are working remotely now, and people are getting picked up accounts and quitting their jobs. So we really appreciate what you all doing and what you do. I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice on your end. Behind the scenes, we don't see all that going on, but we see it all outside there. The security, the safety, the maintenance of our structure, the roads, the park, and everything else. We're all benefiting from it, and it's all because of what you all do. And so we really value and appreciate you all. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And, so, what do you need from us at this point? I guess.
So there's the three contracts.
Okay.
There's my contract, Chief Outlet, and Lieutenant Taylor's, were the three non-represented units in this organization. Each contract is exactly the same, with the exception of pay. So what I'm asking is the council to make an action to approve those amended contracts, and we'll be on our merry way, and hopefully the foreseeable future, bring King City into a bright and wonderful new realm. So.
Does anyone have comments or questions about the contracts themselves?
Well,
Yeah.
I think you said they were all the same, but they don't have vehicles, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're issued, government vehicles.
Yep.
Questions?
Motion?
Unless anyone has any other comments or they have questions, then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the contracts for city manager, the chief, and the lieutenant.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, raising hands.
Means the world to us.
No, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate you.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, guys, we appreciate you. All right, then, we aren't doing any staff reports. We'll do that at our regular meeting, which is, Mike, remind us, next meeting, January 17th at 6 p.m.
Question?
Yep.
Do we want to conduct interviews of our applicants at that point in time? From my understanding, there's been some discussion about another special meeting on January 31st, for potentially, appointing a replacement. So do we want to do interviews of the applicants that we have? So far, we have 3 different applicants for council, and I think we have 2 to 3 applicants for planning commission. We could try to work those in on the 17th through like a work session. Based on how many we have, I'm saying we probably need like 2 hours. Means that we probably need to get here like about 2 hours.
Are you able to forward us all the applications that you receive as you receive them versus them to us a week before.
I think so. I don't see why we couldn't release that to
Because if we're able to review them, if we have plenty of time to review them, it will cut down on the time of our meeting. If we already know.
Yeah.
I'm
Who it is
just
that we're-
thinking with 6 people right now, and we might get more.
Yeah.
That gives you basically 15 to 20 minutes per person. Maybe a little bit more. So, I figured if we tried to get them all within 1 hour, it would be tough.
I will just say, while I don't agree with the community members' analysis of the notice, because the issue was raised, I think we should just double check and ensure that the time frame and the notice and all of that is correct. So,
We'll get you that information from our attorney.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But let's pass it on and just, we might as well make sure that, it's
Because we
copacetic.
did bring up that exact issue, and we had that conversation with our attorney, so I'm just gonna let our attorney.
Perfect.
tell
Yep.
you.
Great. Then, yes, I would, yeah, no, we haven't decided yet. Personally, I think we should do it. I think we should hold, the interviews. I think we need some we need a little pre-planning.
Yep.
I don't want to have, over the last year and a half, we've had a few disastrous kind of awkward. First of all, it's always awkward, and it's always very difficult because it's always a clunky interview process. It's always a process that's difficult. I stand by having redone the interviews of Ron Johnson and the last planning commissioner because I fundamentally felt that the initial questions of both were so imbalanced, and one was very harsh questions, and the other were very soft, and it just felt very biased. And I stand by the fact that we redid it. Did it look bad and was it poor form? Of course it was. It was embarrassing. We could have done better, but I stand by the fact that we redid it because when you make a mistake, you face it and correct it. So, however, here, let's not do it. Let's figure out a better way. I think Sean and I were talking no more than 3 interview questions because we really have their applications already. We have their resumes. We don't need, a million questions. We don't need questions from each one of us. We don't need, we can go through the process.
Right, could we just send those 3 questions to them, 24, 48 hours in advance?
Right, absolutely. Say, here's the 3 questions we're going to ask of each, and I think they need to be standard.
Yep.
I think they need to be asked of each applicant, and then we go from there, and then we just simply, now, previously, anyway, so I think that's,
So previously,
Yeah.
what we end up doing is that we kind of put it to the council to send me questions, but then that never really pans out.
yeah.
You're gonna
right.
have 50.
So then I'm scrambling at the end to
Yeah.
try to put together some questions
Right.
that I think the council wants to know, and it just doesn't really play out. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important that I get some,
Yeah.
legitimate questions from the council this time around ahead of time, so we
Can I
can put
propose
things out.
an idea? There are questions on the application that they answer, and those are basically the questions that we want the answers to. So my thought is, why don't we just ask them the questions, ask them to read their application, just so that, sorry, everyone, that was really loud. Just so that, yes. Thank you. I don't know, that's just an idea. Why, try to,
I think I think that. I think over the years, what we've seen is different efforts of applicants. And so, we've seen applications where someone wrote one sentence and then someone attached a 3-page response, right? And so I think over the years, we got away a little bit from that that's right. We can do that, or
and they can decide how they want to answer it.
right,
But it would just make everything, it's already written out instead of reinventing the wheel.
yeah,
It's already done.
yeah.
Sounds great.
I'm fine with that too.
Let's just do that.
Yeah, well, let's do that. Yeah.
I'd also like to propose that on the January 17th meeting, we only go over the planning commissioners, because I really do feel like we need to give the council position more time. I don't think that we're going to be ready in 9 days to make a decision on filling a council member seat. It's a very important position, and we need to make sure that we're allowing the community members enough time to apply. So I would just like to propose that we hopefully appoint some planning commissioners at our next council meeting, which is on the 17th. And then on the 31st, if that's a date that we're going to meet, that would be a time to interview candidates for the council position.
You're saying you don't want to interview the ones that we have on?
I guess we could interview them and
We
just.
could interview them,
make
but make a
action.
decision, but I think what she's saying is that
Yeah.
she wants a little more time in case someone else wants to apply.
I just
Yeah.
think, let's, looks like our agendas are usually pretty full at our council meetings, and so what I'm proposing is splitting it up. Planning commission maybe would be at the next meeting, and then interviewing the counselors, potential counselors would be at the 31st meeting.
Basically, I just checked.
But doesn't that depend on hearing from what she said you confirm with the lawyer?
Yeah, when are we gonna have an answer from Peter? Or do you feel like we already have the answer from Peter that we need, but you want him to answer the question as to
The
why our.
timing of,
Okay.
yeah.
The timing.
Okay, then that's fine. I think that's fine. I think if listen, we listen to our attorneys. So if the attorney says it's copacetic, then that's what, we have an obligation to do that, so.
His resignation on December 20th.
Right.
I think we put out the notice a couple days later, and then we asked our attorney, what about this 30-day? Does it have to wait until the December 30th or first day, or can we just out now? And so I'm just gonna let him answer it, because I don't know.
Sure.
The reality is that the intention of the 30 days is to give people adequate time to apply.
Right,
So if we're
right.
going over 30 days, then
Right.
it's
And
kind of a point.
it's been noticed, we're going to exceed the 30-day notice no matter what, so, I don't.
Yeah.
Wait for Peter to give you the legal
Sure.
stuff, but,
So I just I have a point of clarification. So is your thought to have planning commission interviews on the 17th,
Mhm.
council interviews on the 31st, and then make our decision for both on the 31st, or make the planning commission decision after the interviews on the 17th, and then make our decision of the counselors on the 31st that same day? I'm just trying to think what the vote, like the interview and the vote, are we doing them at the same time, or are you thinking like interview, think about it, interview, think about it, and then vote, or you all think?
Well, if you post on the council, if you're having the meeting on the 31st, when would you didn't vote?
The next meeting.
Then,
probably,
right,
yeah.
we'd have to have another special meeting
Yeah.
before the 13th,
I guess
right?
on the 31st one.
Yeah.
I think we just have to be,
So then the only question is, so planning commission interviews and decision on the 17th. And then,
alternatively,
right, okay.
you can interview the candidates that you have on the 17th.
right,
If we get additional candidates before the 31st, you can interview them on the 31st. And one, it lightens the load on the 31st, still doesn't lighten the load on the 17th at all. But at least makes the special session on the 31st a lighter load, hopefully, and then get more candidates, great, we can interview them on the 17th. If you don't, then we've already interviewed the candidates that we have.
So you're mixing them together, so we were talking planning commission, just,
I'm just mixing them.
So you're saying interview everyone on the 17th and make all the decisions on the 31st?
I don't think we should do that because of the whole 30-day notice thing. We have a time frame, and I don't want to violate any kind of public notice for the 30 days.
So
Planning commission, the 17th.
planning commission on the 17th and decision on the 17th, and then council interviews and decision on the 31st. Sure. Okay, I'm fine with that. Yeah. And then, we've had, there's a couple of candidates, right, for the planning commission, and then, at some point, the budget committee, do you just want to brief, I know the answer, and I ask you a ton of questions when I already know the answer, but I think it's important. Can you just speak to the budget committee vacancies and when those might Is that something we're gonna table until after the 13th, but then will be a priority then? Maybe why is it not a priority compared to the other ones, maybe? For right now.
Numbers?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think that the budget committee has just been open, even, before I started here, they always had trouble with filling the budget committee. And I think when I started here, there was like 4 openings on the budget committee. And since that time, we've been able to get it fully staffed. Right, you said no, but, I thought we were pretty close once and then, fell off again. So it's just one of those, committees where you just don't get the kind of interest that you do from some of the others.
I'll say they meet one time a year. I think it's important, I think it's really important that people understand. So yes, there are vacancies on the budget committee. However, it meets once a year. It is, as far as things that need to get done in the next 5 weeks before 65% of us could be gone, I think it is important that we have to triage what we need to do. And filling a board that meets once a year is important because we need those places, however, it does not rise to the top of other things for that. So I think we should table that, in my opinion, until after the recall election, but that we really focus on those vacancies. I mean, maybe notice them now, right, or continue to notice them because they're always noticed.
Yeah.
However, I think we need to maybe think about how we are going to get people. And
I mean, the reality is that we are all members of the budget committee as well.
Right, exactly.
So, because we all are required, quote unquote, to attend that annual meeting as well. So it's not like there's nobody else.
Right, it's not like they're not meeting or not doing it, right, exactly.
So, my advice would be that, it just remain open. And as we get applicants for the budget committee, we can bring those up to the council at meetings periodically as it goes. I think trying to do everything at once.
Right.
We can at a time.
Right. I think that it needs to be said, and I'll only say it this one time, but this is what I will say, right? The community at large reads, for those who are on Nextdoor, read Nextdoor. They're on Facebook. Some community members read Facebook, right? Some community members come to our community meetings and hear, right? And it is a daunting task right now to try to inspire people to face some of the actions, right? It is very hard to sit here in a room and have the entire room for 3 hours tell you why you're horrible and shouldn't be serving and don't do your job properly and so forth. And we do it because everyone here deserves to have an opportunity to come and say what they want. But it is absolutely not unreasonable to understand why we are not getting applicants right now. And it is not because we aren't noticing them or we're not spending enough time out trying to, incentivize the community. It is because people are flatly terrified to serve right now in this environment. And I have countless people come to me and tell me that. I'd love to serve, but I can't face that, right? And so there's something to be said about that. So with that, anything else for the good of the order? I'm a little spicy tonight, but, such is life. So,
I move to adjourn.
anyone second?
Ask for anything else.
I did. There we go. All in favor? So, adjourn. Thank you all.
Don't come in.
Funny, I'm going to give you this. I will forward you the 2 emails that I read tonight because I'm sure we'll have records requests. I'll start preparing the countless others that I have in my inbox because I'm sure we'll get requests for those too.